Keenan, I'm going to show you your card. So I'm going to give you the buyer card. All right. While I do that, Emerald, if you look away for a moment. Fred, if you could just turn off your video just for the moment as well. Okay. And then I've got the buyer's cards. And what I'm also going to do, Keenan, is I'm going to give you a tactic to practice with purpose. Okay.
Yep.
So here we go. All right. So right. So you have Emerald's hiding. Look. So you have a budget. This is your budget. So your objective is to negotiate below that. Okay. Right. Now then, your tactic, sir, is that. Okay, so I'll give you a minute just to work that one out. So Emerald, you can look back. And Emerald, so Keenan, if you make sure you don't look for the moment.
Yep.
Emerald, your budget, sorry, not your budget, your break even. Your break even is.
Okay.
Well, your objective is to negotiate a final price above that, okay? And your tactic, where's your tactic? Your tactic is. You're going to want to read that, aren't you?
Yeah.
All right, I tell you what, I'll give you a second just to read it up, okay?
I'm so unconfident on how to use this.
Hey, listen, don't worry. This is not about being perfect at it. This is exactly the point. If you haven't used it, it doesn't matter. It's about trying it. Right? That is always a point. Every time we read these new things, it can be daunting, and that's why we often don't do it. This is an opportunity for you to have a go. Getting it wrong is just as important as getting it right. Okay?
Yep.
Right, so I'm going to put on the camera. All right, so as I said before, you have 4 minutes. Now, the objective in the 4 minutes is to practice with purpose. So let's see if you can agree a satisfactory price for tons of apples and see if you can practice with purpose your tactics. And at the end of it, Fred and I will have a chat, okay? Your time starts now.
Hello, Emerald. How are you?
I'm good, Keenan. How are you?
I'm doing excellently. So I have asked a friend and they pointed me towards you, and I think you might be able to help me with a little problem I've had for a bit. I need a ton of apples, and I've heard that you are selling them. Is that correct?
That is correct. So what is the purpose of your apples, can I ask, just so I know how to best suit your needs?
That's no problem. So I own a small little restaurant in the middle of Blackpool. It's called Taku's Apple Pies. As you can understand, we only sell apple pies. And as you can understand, apples are the key ingredient of what we sell. And as such, it is really important that I get my hands on some.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So do you have different types of apple pies? Like, is it there some really high quality apples you're looking for, or are you more flexible in the quality?
There's only one type of apple pie that we sell.
Okay. No worries. And what sort of price range are you looking to buy your apples in?
So I would like to say that in the region of between 150 and 200 pounds, hopefully I could obtain a ton of apples.
I'm really sorry. I don't think we could even do business with that being the starting point, especially if you're looking for apples for a restaurant. I'm more thinking in the range between 800 and 900 pound per ton.
Ooh, that sounds far too expensive and far too deep for my wallet. As you can understand, with the whole situation with COVID and with supply lines and everything like that, it's necessarily very difficult to come across money I'm having to pay for overheads, having to pay for rent, and of course for staff as well. And I've suffered quite a bit in that regard. Is there anything you can do for me at all?
I think you definitely need to try to meet me a bit closer. As you've already said, it is a bit of a difficult time, and I have staff like in the fields trying to get those apples, and I need to support my business, they need to support their families, so you will have to come a bit closer to my price.
I understand. Obviously, it should be something of a mutual relationship, so hopefully we can agree on a price. I'll tell you what, if you drop your price to around £300, then I could promise to spread good news about your company and recommend it to others.
I do really value the benefits of positive word of mouth. However, that's still nowhere near where I need it to be to continue negotiating a price.
All right. I'll say this instead. If you dropped it to £385 per ton, is that?
I'm really sorry. You're honestly nowhere near where I can go at the minute.
Are you willing to change the initial number you'd said before?
I initially said 800 to 900. Obviously, your budget is a lot lower than I can do. The lowest I can really bring you to is maybe 700.
Oh, I think we can do a little bit better than that. I do not have a great deal of funds, and unfortunately, if you can't provide me with the apples I need, I would have to go to one of your competitors.
Can you just, we only got a couple of seconds left. What is the highest price, the best price you could do for me?
£500.
No.
Yeah, really.
Well done. All right. Okay. It's amazing how the 4 minutes go so quickly. But look, well done, both of you. I mean, really, really well done. Particularly Emerald, if it's been a while since you've actually used these as well and you're looking up that tactic. So awesome, awesome. I'm going to ask you, actually, interesting enough, Emerald, do you have any thoughts as to maybe what tactic Keenan was using?
No, I don't. I think I was too concerned with myself. I was looking, but I don't know. I couldn't guess.
Okay, no, that's absolutely fine. Okay, well, Keenan was looking to use it if you, then we. Okay.
I think I'd only used it about once, maybe twice. I think I could have squeezed it in a bit more.
Well, you were certainly putting if in there, and you were trying it. We'll talk about that, actually. All right. Now, the interesting thing I'd say there, Emerald, is that, okay, this is a practice. All right. I'm going to ask, and I always ask people what they think the other person was doing. And the reason for that is when we negotiate, we often spend an awful lot of our time in our own heads, thinking about our own numbers and not wondering about what's happening with the other person. So once you start to practice and you get comfortable, when you start to think, well, it's not really about me, it's about the other person, what the other person is doing, that's going to be of value. Right? So nothing wrong with it. It's just that you're at the early learning stage of that. As a matter of interest, Keenan, what kind of tactic do you think Emerald was looking to employ?
Did you give a range in the beginning?
Yeah. Very briefly for what you said.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, let me just explain a little bit about that. Okay, so the if you, then we. All right. Now, the point is negotiation is all about movement. But if you are going to move, those movements should be conditional. And the way of making those conditional movements is generally through a proposal. And I would suggest that this is one way that you should do in proposals, which is if you, and then you set the condition, then we, and you set our concession. So if you accept a price of 500, then we will buy twice as many apples and we'll buy 2 tons, for example, yeah? So you set the concession, which is what you want from them, sorry, the condition you want from them, and then you set the concession that you've done. And you tend to try and do it in that order as well. So you put the condition first before you put the concession. If you put the concession first, what often happens is that people only hear that. They don't hear the next bit, okay? All right, so just be mindful of that. So that's if you, then we. Now then, the range is, again, another wonderful tactic in negotiations, okay? Now, if you do put a range down, my advice is always to add a little bit to it, in the sense of the range should incorporate not just the variable, but also something that ties both ends. So for example, we are selling apples. Our low quality range starts at £580 and our high quality is at £983 or something like that nature, yeah? So what you're doing then is you're actually saying, right, well, that's where the numbers are at. There's a reason why they're at that number, and it can act as an anchor. Problem is, if you just throw out, right, my range is between, 800 and 900, and you don't give any other reasons for it, again, it's a nice, easy sort of get in there and do something about it. Fred, thoughts from you, sir?
Thoughts from me. So let me just go back on there. Yeah, so there's some really good stuff. They got the range, didn't they? Try to put some context. I mean, no, let me go back even further. Good understanding of what you're trying to do here. What's your purpose? What are you trying to do? Let's just establish that, because that's going to change what I'm going to do. So good questioning. Yeah, don't jump straight into it. Then kind of, oh, it's for a restaurant. Okay, cool. Now I've got some content, and you worked very quickly to go, oh, restaurant, you need high quality stuff. And so that you were using to push your price up. Nice. Yeah. The other thing, and again, what was showing great listening is you listened to restaurant and you used it. Then we talked about, oh, COVID, it's really bad, overhead staff. Yeah. Trouble for my staff too. Very clever.
It was a
That's
good rebuttal.
No, it wasn't great, because you're using stuff that he understands, because you said it, rather than some other thing, which could be true. It's like, well, no, let's talk about the one that he gets. If you, then I was interested to see what would happen when we got to about £300. And I don't know if you were just going to be quiet, but Keenan did jump in. If you were, that was a brilliant place to be silent. But he jumped in so fast anyway, it didn't really matter. But if you watched it, if you think that would have been great if he didn't, to see what would have happened using silence. Yeah, okay, you wanted to make a deal. Oh, I think we can do a little bit. Yeah, that's great. You wanted to, you did want to work together, and that was cool. And the whole tone was, I liked it. It's people who did want to actually strike a deal. So yeah, look, I liked it. And the only thing I'm going to add in, just to what Phil said, was that if you then we, yes, there's the whole psychology. If you don't hear the thing first, etc., etc., there's a far more practical element. If you don't put theirs first, you can forget to put it. And I've heard so many salespeople who are trying to be this very amenable, pleasant person. What if we do this? And the buyer will go, yep.
Yeah.
We'll do that then. Cool, thank you. Gift, not a trade.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's for me, that's how I always think about it. Is you put if you first, because I've got to remember that they have got to do something as part of this deal.
Yeah.
It's just practical as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, you even have that template, don't you? You normally would have lots of if yous, then we already pre-planned to actually put into the conversation, to the negotiation.
Yeah.
What I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you what you had on your cards.
Oh.
500 is as high as you can go. I'll remember this.
Now, of course, the reason for showing you the cards is you do not see those cards generally in the real world, but we're trying to identify why we behaved the way we did. So you had a zone of possible agreements. Okay, so there was one. All right. Now, of course, you're the seller. You don't know the buyer's position. The buyer, you don't know the seller's position. So what we're trying to do is gauge the reactions we have, listen out for the words to determine whether it is. So let me just give a bit of feedback that I saw as well. So first of all, great, Keenan, you set the scene. Look, I heard it from a friend. All right. I have a little bit of a problem, but I want 1 ton of apples. Are you selling? Short question. Great. After a little bit of introduction, fine. Yes. Okay. What's the purpose? Again, great. Open question now. All right. Small restaurant, apple pies. Apples are the key ingredient, and it's important to actually be able to get hold of some. Great. Are you looking for different types? Because if you're looking for apple quantities and qualities, etc. Now, the only thing I would say there is you asked a question, Emerald, but what I would do is ask a question, just go quiet.
Okay.
Right? We often find ourselves falling into the trap of asking a question and then actually answering or guiding an answer. Okay, so I would just say, oh, nice, Keenan, wonderful. Are you interested in different types of apples? Yeah, and then you can follow on from that. And in fact, Keenan, only one type. Great question. What's your price range? Now, so Emerald's then asking what the price range is. Now that you know what, I missed this. I missed the bloody first number because I was writing stuff down because it was so quick. Okay, but it was something along the lines of I'm looking at
150.
I'd said
150.
I'd said 150 to 200. That was very cheeky of me.
yeah, that was hugely cheeky, and you know the numbers, so that was cheeky. But you've got to try it. Okay, so you did ask this, but it was what you said before that caught my attention. And it was something like you said, well, I'd like to start in the region of beginning at, and then you put your numbers down. So what you did is even before you put the numbers down, you kind of really softened it up. You know, I'd like to start in a region of. It was something along those terms, but it was caveated some. So I would say, look, be more specific and then just stick to it. Yeah, so we're paying for apples between 150 and 250 pounds per ton. And you might want to say, you know, you might want to add something to it. So we're paying for mid-range apples, 1 ton, between 150 to 250. Because then it gives you an opportunity, or it gives the other party then to make movements to try and change that number. Maybe it's more quantity, different quality. All right, but you've got in that sense, you've got 3 variables that you can now try to find a mix that works. But if you start off with, I kind of want to start in a range of, all right, it's kind of, yeah. But Emerald was genuinely in shock. I mean, I was looking for the response, okay? And it didn't matter what you said, actually, that was, I could see Emerald, and that wasn't going to work, okay? And then Keenan, you knew it wasn't going to work either, I think.
It was outrageous for me, I know.
Yeah, but you got to try it. You know, we're putting stuff out there. So actually, then Emerald came back and said, no, you know, I'm thinking of more in the range of, yeah, this is it. You're thinking in the range of 800 to 900. So this is where, in a way, you've been caught out a little bit. It's hit you a little bit. That was such a low number. Now you're going to come in with 800, 900, but actually you come across quite soft in the way you presented it. Keenan, I'm afraid that really isn't going to work for us. The range of our apples is a low quality 800 to a high quality of 900 pound per ton. But you've got flummoxed a little bit, but that's fine. But I mean, to be honest, when you put that down, that was above his budget. So Keenan was, ooh, in fact, he was shaking his head and all sorts. And in fact, he said, you know, that's far too expensive. You know, we've got to pay our workers. Yeah, you've got to pay your workers. We've got to pay our workers, you know, the suffer. Is there anything you can do? And I thought that was a lovely bit. Is there anything you can do? But the point was, is actually there was 2 elements of different types of shock we saw. And there were genuine elements to it as well. And Emerald was, well, you definitely need to meet somewhere close to, you know, to what I have. Can you come down a bit? Now there was that little, you know, a bit more to where we are. I want a mutual relationship, but then you mentioned £300. That got hit back. Then you mentioned, well, what if we do 385? I think it was, and it was okay. I'm really sorry, you're nowhere near. Okay, and then there was a few, then it was like 700. Now the interesting thing was when the 700 got put down, okay, 700 was acceptable, and you said, "Oh, that's can we do it a little bit better?" Now I thought that was interesting because that was a slight change in the wording that we had before. Can we do a little bit better? And then we had a few more bit and fro, and you didn't make an agreement. I suspect you would have made an agreement. But again, it's quite interesting to see the change of language once the 700 went down, that was acceptable. And at that point, Keenan's thinking, right, I'm going to lose this deal and I could have a deal here. What do I do? Do I keep pushing or do I accept? Because now it's just gone inside. And it was easy for Emerald because it still wasn't acceptable. So she, you know, what's your best deal? 500. Can't do it. No. Now you're in a real pickle because you've lost the business. You lost that because you wanted to get more. The time was against you.
It was pure greed on my part. I really thought I could get away with something like £100 below my initial buying breakout point. But yeah, obviously that kind of blew up in my face. But I guess it was a risk, I think.
Yeah, it is a risk, and you know, you never know what the cards are like. You know, there are some cards out there that would have made it, you know, very, very simple. But the point of practicing is that you want to be looking at how you practice the tactics, because that's what this was really about. You wanted to try as many if you then we's as we can. What I would say is the more you practice with the cards, for example, the more you almost grow up in the sense of you move away from it being purely a game to actually it now being a professional practice session. It's a bit like, I used to play a lot of rugby, and when you're younger and you're doing it, even in the training sessions, it's a bit of a game. Once you start getting to the higher levels, you're really focused on the elements you're practicing, not the little game elements. So that's where we're at. But I thought it was beautiful. There were some wonderful pieces going on there. Well done, the both of you.
Thank you.
Emerald, any thoughts from you? Final thoughts from you?
No, I thought that was really good. It is mental how fast the time goes, though. I felt like I looked up and it had been 2 minutes, and I was like, we're not going to get a deal. He's still on £250. Oh.
Keenan, what about you?
I thought it was quite good. Of course, I really noticed how I've kind of grown in confidence, and I really like the cohort I was with, particularly Jake and Mohammed, who I think were quite experienced. They sort of tried the things that I was kind of going for now, trying to be a bit hard, trying to really pull arms to try and bring the price low. And yeah, I really commend Emerald, who was really trying to keep it quite high. I think from my initial 150 to 200, I'd gone far higher than I think she had come lower. So I was trying to contend with that. Maybe if we'd had another minute, maybe we would have found it. But I enjoyed that. That was good.
Good. Fred, any final thoughts from you, sir?
Yeah, no, I think the only thing I'm going to say with the going very, very low early, you've got to be a bit careful. It was okay today, and I think your cheekiness, you can get away with it. But there's always that risk that somebody will go, you are absolutely joking. No, there's no point in us talking anymore. Game over. I know the price of the market price of apples. You're just being an idiot. Not going to talk to you anymore. So it didn't. All I'm just saying is, and I hate it when you get feedback like that, because you just push it back to me and go, but it can happen. If Emerald's is having a bad day, really tired, whatever, had just done a research, you go, no, you just, no.
Yeah.
And remember, the emotions come into play. And if you spike the wrong emotion, you're now really having to work hard, because you'll just be harder and harder on purpose. But it didn't in this case, but it's just, it's a learning point. So let's throw that one in. But you did really well. I thought you both did excellent. Nice to watch.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that, so that's what they call the piss-off point.
Yeah.
So it's the point you've gone so far, actually, you kind of undermine any conversation beyond that. Now, if you do that, you might have to sort of, take a few steps back and say, I am sorry, that was wrong of me. That was really, I shouldn't have said that. The reality is that the prices that we'd be looking at and then do something else. But it's difficult. And that's where the job knowledge comes into it. The more you know about the marketplace, because what you're trying to do is you are trying to get it just outside what is acceptable and then move into the acceptable. But if you go too far out, don't forget you've got to then move all that way in. So if you're way out here and then you've got to move all the way back in, you've got to justify that. So you've got to have a plan in order to be able to make those movements.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, all I can say is thank you for the practice. Fred, thank you for participating and giving the feedback. And you know what? We need to do another one of these very, very soon. All I would say is, look, just keep on practicing, use the cards. And while you're practicing, get it right, get it wrong, it doesn't matter. You're working on it. So well done, both of you. And thanks for your feedback, Fred. Yay.